Alright guys, what's going on? Back with another video. So, Pierre Poilievre just went on The Hub, which is a pretty popular podcast, over 62,000 subscribers. And it's a 40-minute podcast. I'm not going to do the whole thing in one video. But if you guys want, I can break this down in segments. I haven't watched the full thing yet. I've only watched the first couple minutes, and I thought, hey, since I talk about Canadian politics and I'm a fan of Pierre Poilievre, let's break this down. So let me know if you want me to do this almost like a mini series of covering this podcast. Now, before we get into this first segment here, please don't forget to like and subscribe, as it really does help grow the channel. So let's get into this. We'll watch for a few minutes, then we'll talk about it after, like usual.
See you, Sean. It's been a little while.
We have so much to talk about. I'm really grateful for the opportunity. And we have to start with the recent election campaign.
Yeah.
On June 19th, on January 19th, betting markets predicted that there was a 90% probability that we would be Canada's next prime minister. How have you come to think about what happened?
Well, geez, it was if you start at your starting point is July. You said January 19th. A lot happened in that time. We got in a very short period of time, President Trump's tariffs and his 51st state talk. The Liberals replaced their leader. The carbon tax disappeared. The coalition ended, all in a very short period of time. And ultimately, the NDP collapsed to monumentally low levels. Yes. And, you know, if you look at our numbers, they didn't actually come down that much. We got 41.3%, which is the highest we've got since '88. So
think about that for a second, right? I was born in 1988. Okay, so this is essentially the second time in my life, although basically the first time in my life, depending on when the election was in 1988. I don't know which month it was, but I was born in September, so it's likely that the Conservatives getting 41% is the best they've ever done in my lifetime. Imagine 1 year ago if I said, hey, you know what? Now, to be fair, they were polling at higher than 41%. But if I said, hey, you know, Trudeau's going to be gone, they're going to replace him with Mark Carney, you know, that globalist banker looks like Mr. Burns, but they're only going to drop to 41%, you'd go, oh, they're going to win a majority then. I would have thought so too. But then the fake elbows up slogan campaign, Mark Carney comes in for Justin Trudeau, the coalition with the NDP and the Liberals end, the tariffs, and then the complete collapse of the NDP, and it's not enough because the Liberals got 43%. The NDP was basically wiped off. They kamikaze themselves, led by Jagmeet Singh. And we'll see what happens with them in the future, yada, yada, yada. We all know this, but it was pretty unprecedented what happened this election. It's not likely to happen again. Yes, some polls, well, Ecos and Nanos, are showing that Carney's support is continuing to grow massively. Ecos is a garbage poll. Nanos, not the most accurate either, but Abacus is actually showing that it's still pretty close. So it's tough to say what's going on. I know there's a lot of people right now who don't have hope. There's a lot of people in Alberta, some people leaving comments on my videos saying, hey, I don't care anymore. I want out. So they're not enthusiastic about the Conservatives. So yes, their support is dropping right now, but it's only temporary. Just wait until this man gets back into the House and Commons and gets to absolutely slam the Liberals. Especially if the summer doesn't go very well, which it probably won't.
what happened was that everything else consolidated around the Liberals and on one basic issue. So, you know, well, we made great gains, a couple million more votes, 2.5 million to be precise, and about 25 more seats. It wasn't enough to overcome that consolidation. And but you know, now we have to build on the coalition that we've established. Like it's a new group. They're voting for us now.
Yes.
You know, we brought in a lot of youth, union workers, newcomers to the country, a lot of people who'd never voted at all that came out and cast a ballot. And now our challenge is how do we crystallize that? How do we keep these people inspired? How do we actually deliver for them the best we can in opposition?
Yes.
And then add the 2 or 3 percentage points more of people who didn't come out for us this time, so that we can get over the top next time.
I'll ask you a bit about how you build on the gains in the last election, but you mentioned Donald Trump, and he, of course, was a big part of the story. It became evident during the campaign, Pierre, that he didn't want you to be the next prime minister. What do you think's behind that?
I don't know. I mean, I would be theorizing, so I don't want to speculate on why, but my purpose was to put our country first and foremost, repatriate more production here, make us more self-reliant and independent, hit other markets by getting our most precious resources to places that will pay us the full price,
yes,
and enrich our people. And so I'm a Canadian patriot, maybe a bit of a Canadian nationalist, and that's the agenda that I have on the U.S. issue.
Yeah, so just again, to briefly touch on that, I mean, when Pierre says, oh, hey, I don't want to speculate, he knows why. It's because Trump said he wanted a liberal. They're easy to deal with. That's why he wanted Carney in. Now, to be fair, Pierre's just kind of playing it safe. Now, the criticism, or one of the criticisms of Pierre, is, well, it's like, hey, you're playing it too safe. But to be fair, this is Canada. Canadian politics are extremely fickle. You say one thing that pisses some people off, or the media can use to spin against you, and you're going to lose support. This is a very liberal country. Even swing voters generally will revert to the Liberal Party. That's why it's one of the reasons it's harder for conservatives to win. So it's like, people say, I don't want him to play it safe, but you don't want him to be too risky either. He was put in such a tough spot. And, all the people saying, oh, what a failure this guy is. Like Pierre said, 41% of the vote. Very rare that happens. It's because of Pierre. 25 more seats, 2.5 million more votes since the last election. Those are all good things. It just looks really bad when you still lose and then lose your own riding. But don't worry, he'll be back.
Opposition, we're saying we'll work with the government to try and overcome these tariffs and hopefully just get back to a sane free trading arrangement with the Americans that served both countries so well for so long. Well, obviously we're not going to just support any deal, but we want a deal to happen so that the steel workers in Hamilton, the auto workers in Windsor and Oshawa and southwestern Ontario, the energy workers out west, get their jobs and get better lives. So that's how we're going to be approaching it going forward.
If you'll permit me a follow-up, you're someone who's not just a conservative politician, but someone who's spent his life in the world of conservative ideas.
Yeah.
Do you think Donald Trump is a conservative?
I mean, I don't know if I would. I don't know what label to put on him. He's got his own approach. My approach is the one you see when you hear me speak. And that's what I consider to be conservatism. But I'm not going to put a label on another foreign leader, because at the end of the day, we're going to have to do business with President Trump. He's going to be president for the next 3+ years. And you never know, I might be prime minister before that time is up. So I'm not going to, I'm going to have to potentially do diplomacy with him or his successor.
Yes.
And so I don't think, I appreciate the try, but I don't want to get into the game of labeling a foreign leader with.
So, and that's the thing, right? Now, I'm going to get called a hypocrite for this, but I'll explain why I'm not. So, Mark Carney is being obviously very diplomatic with Trump, kissing his ass. He ran on a campaign where he was supposed to be tough. Pierre Poilievre ran a campaign based off of change. Here's what I'm going to do in this country. With Carney, it was all about, we're going to be tough, Pierre wouldn't be tough. So yes, is it very likely that if Pierre Poilievre becomes president or prime minister and meets up with Donald Trump, yeah, he'll probably kiss his butt a little bit too. But he didn't run on being tough against Trump, and that's the difference. He ran on Canada first, which is what we need.
A particular ideological brush.
Fair enough. You mentioned the issue of consolidation in the election. And one way to think about it is that you successfully consolidated the Canadian right.
I don't know if I even call it the Canadian right, though. I mean, people who voted for us, a lot of them wouldn't even consider themselves to be on the right. They were, I think of all the guys I met in union halls across the country. I don't know. I mean, 10 years ago, someone might have said that they were on the political left.
Yes.
I think what we brought together was a coalition of people who were desperately working to make lives better for themselves and their families, but were held back mostly by government policies, and they were inspired by the agenda I had to give them back control of their lives.
Yes.
I don't really think, the whole left-right thing I don't really think describes very much in the real world. I think the nature of our coalition is one of the folks who work extremely hard. Disproportionately now, there are people who make stuff, move stuff, fix stuff, and build stuff. And they really want to earn a good life for themselves. They're not asking for any kind of a favor. They're just asking for a chance.
Yes.
And I think we're really becoming the party of opportunity.
Yes. Yeah,
He's absolutely right there. Myself included, I have never voted conservative. I am not what you would consider a right-winger. Right? Like, I'm just... Okay, here's how it really works, right? There are some people who are on the far left. Now, when they look at me, they see a far right-winger. Why? Because they're so far left, you could be in the middle and be far to the right to them. Right? From their perspective... From their far left wing, I mean, they're so far left they fall off a cliff almost. And if they look at anyone in the middle, they are the far right to them. The far right is just even further, but they glom us into the same kind of category. Right? It's like, I would say I'm like center left, populist left. If you're a populist left, you're going to be on Pierre's team for sure. Because there's no one else. Even the so-called populist party of Canada, the People's Party, their leader's a joke. I'm not wasting my time. With Pierre, he's kind of like center-right. He's the closest one to me. And he makes a lot of points. He makes common sense. He's bringing that back again. You see a bunch of things that going on with the NDP. Northern Perspective put out this video. I don't know if you guys saw it, but like, it was like an I don't know if it was an ad or they were just kind of talking about the future of the NDP, but it was such a joke. Go watch it. I mean, it's insane. And then Tanya from Northern Perspective goes, "Hey Ryan, you wonder why people, especially young men, are going conservative? Yeah, that's why, because they're tired of this woke shit. They are." And it's only the far left wingers who can't seem to understand it. But again, this is Canada. There's more far left than there are far right. So he makes a very good point there. I know a lot of other people who wouldn't be necessarily considering themselves conservatives or on the far right. They love Pierre. And I get it. What was the other option? Trudeau, Singh, now you got Carney and whoever the NDP is going to pick. It's going to be a lot of the same crap. We all know it. Pierre needs a chance. That's why I voted for him. Not because I'm conservative or on the far right.
No doubt that a big part of the election story and really the lead up to the years leading up to the election is the political realignment. It's happening in other parts of the Anglo-American world, but I think it's fair to say in the last election, the Conservative Party under your leadership did the realignment just about better than any center-right party in the world. The reason I mentioned the subject of consolidation, though, because as you say, it also happened on the left and center-left. And it prompts the question in my mind, Pierre, as you're thinking about how to build on the gains in 2025. How do you think about the role of the New Democrats, which is to say, if we are entering a period of essentially two-party races, at least in English Canada, how will that influence Conservative Party planning and strategy?
Well, I believe there was two New Democratic parties contained in one. There was, the woke, trendy, elitist New Democratic Party. And obviously those activists and those people did not vote for me.
Yes.
But there's a lot of great, working class, blue collar, hardworking, common sense people who've been voting NDP for generations.
Yes.
Because they saw it as a party of the little guy.
Right.
And
He's right.
they believed that the NDP would get in there and scrap it out for them, and even if they wouldn't form a government. But what they saw, though, was increasingly with parties that call themselves progressive or liberal, or and I know I've already criticized the term, but left. It was increasingly special interest causes that don't affect people's lives or actually make life worse.
Yes.
And that working class group in places like Timmins and
Thunder
Windsor
Bay.
West, Thunder Bay. Yeah, we didn't win Thunder Bay. We did very well there.
Yes.
But we won in Timmins. We won in Windsor West. We won in.
By the way, just to help them out here a little bit, they also came in second place in the riding I live in, which is Hamilton Center. NDP stronghold. Now, they abandoned the party and the Liberals won the riding, but the Conservatives came in second place and got more of a vote share in this riding than they have in a very long time. You could even argue that the only reason we didn't win in Hamilton Center is because of the low voting turnout. When I went to vote in the school gymnasium near where I live, I was the only one in there. And when I left, I was like, oh, is this the trend? Are we not going to see this high turnout that I expected? Because if not, Pierre's in trouble. And then as the election unfolded, we saw, well, that was the case, unfortunately.
London Fanshawe, 3 Vancouver Island ridings, 2 in the interior that were held by the NDP, 1 in Winnipeg where we elected a union worker from an IBEW electrical background. And so that the working people really rallied around us. And I think we're seeing that around the world. There is a realignment, and it is because, traditionally we think of the idea of growing the government was supposed to make it redistribution that was going to take from the rich and give to the working poor.
Yes.
But that's not what's happening. As government's getting bigger and bigger, it's actually reverse redistribution. They're taking from, I always like to say, taking from the have-nots to give to the have-yots. And the state is really, as it expands, has become a way of taking from hardworking people, making them poorer, and then there's a very small group of an aristocratic elite that gets the benefits of that. And I think that's why you've seen a lot of the union workers that had been traditionally in the NDP come to the Conservative Party. We offered them hope of home ownership, hope that they at the end of the month they'd look at their paycheck and see something still left, hope that they'd be able to save up for their kids' education, hope that their hard work would pay off, hope that they'd get a job building a pipeline or digging a mine or doing some other great industrial job that the country needs. And also just respect. I think one of the reasons why we did so well with trades workers is because I said to them, what you do is important.
Yes.
For the longest time, there's been this stereotype that you have to go to university and wear a suit and all that. And that's great. That's what I did. I went to university, I wear a suit. So I'm not bashing that. But we have totally underestimated the importance of the people who literally do make things with their hands.
Yes.
And actually even more so with their minds. It's brain work. And I'm the first federal leader who has spent this much time and spoken so much about the importance of those people, even though I don't have a trades background myself. I wish I did. I think a lot of them were inspired to hear somebody tell them, look them in the eye and say, what you do matters. This country cannot function without you, and we're going to make the country work for you too.
Let's say on this.
I'm going to stop it there. We'll maybe do like 4 10-minute segments or something like that. But let me know if you in the comment section if you want me to continue breaking down this podcast. It's very good so far, and I like what Pierre Poilievre was saying there. At the end, hey, look, I'm going to meet people, I'm going to shake their hands, I'm going to look them in the eye, and I'm going to tell them, hey, what you do matters. And a lot of people believe him. And hopefully when he's prime minister, he will keep that promise. Again, a lot of people believe he will. He has to. If he doesn't, then we got a whole other set of problems to talk about. But that's getting a little bit ahead of ourselves here. However, when you are genuine like that, and you saw him the pleb was covering his rallies that he was doing in his election campaign, right? And a lot of the time, I think most of the time, there's only maybe once or twice where Pierre did not meet everyone outside of the rally after, for those who hung around, and was talking with people, shaking their hands. He just seems like a very legitimate, genuine person, which is very rare for a politician. So I think a lot of people, including myself, got captured in that. Where it's like, hey, this guy actually means it. Where this Trudeau guy's a doofus and sings his little buddy. You're never going to vote for the Bloc unless you're in Quebec. And I sure as hell ain't voting for Elizabeth May or Maxime Bernier. So, he got, that's why he got a lot of votes, because he just seems genuine and he seems like the only chance for Canada's political future. But we shall see. Let me know what you think about this first segment. Also, please, again, let me know if you want me to continue this podcast coverage. And please also don't forget to like and subscribe, as it really does help grow the channel. Thanks so much, guys, and I'll be back shortly with a new one.